Artificial sweeteners are everywhere, from coffee to desserts to energy drinks. But are they actually safe for you? Make sure to watch till the end as I get to the most controversial part there. People say that artificial sweeteners are either God's greatest invention or they're the next cigarette scandal waiting to happen. So what's really the truth? I'm a nutritionist, and let's have a look at the science and the myths of artificial sweeteners to determine whether you should be using them or not. Firstly, let's look at sweeteners versus sugar. So sweeteners such as aspartame, which is one of the most common forms of artificial sweeteners, it is about 200 times sweeter than average table sugar, which is why you only really need a touch of artificial sweetener to get the same degree of sweetness as sugar. And as a result, this can lead to a reduced caloric intake. And some studies have shown, such as those from Leeds University, for example, which shows that using artificial sweetener can actually reduce the number of calories you intake. But, and there's always a but when it comes to this kind of stuff, but it depends. Let's have a look at why. This brings us to appetite and overeating. So just because something has 0 calories does not mean 0 impact. God, the universe, whatever you want to believe, did not create substanceless foods or no calorie foods naturally for no reason. There's a reason why. There's always trade-offs. Because when you eat like foods that have artificial sweetness, for example, your brain expects to register that degree of calorie. So when you eat an artificial sweetener, brownie, for example, that has maybe, 50 calories rather than a regular brownie, which may have 100, just as an example, your brain goes, wait, hang on, I'm not getting the same degree of like caloric intake, what's happening? And as a result, you end up overeating. And it's also that mental idea that when I'm eating sugar sweetener, I'm eating less calories and therefore I can eat more. And yes, this is technically true because you are eating less calories, but should you is the question. In fact, a study from USC actually showed that sucralose, a form of artificial sweetener, subtly changed brain activity relating to hunger, which actually explains why some people feel more hungry or more snacky after consuming food with artificial sweeteners, because your brain literally can change the way it perceives food, perceives hunger. And so it doesn't really signal to your body the way it normally would when you consume normal sugar as opposed to sugar sweeteners. And so technically sugar sweeteners aren't killing you in the sense, but they are sneaky. So it's something to look out for. Another angle to look at is gut health. So artificial sweeteners can interact with your gut microbiome. This is a bacteria in a digestive system that can affect things like digestion, immunity, even your metabolism. Cedars-Sinai researchers observed that sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose can actually alter the way the bacteria in your stomach can influence, or rather not influence, blood sugar control. So it's technically not a death sentence, but it's something to keep in mind when considering if you are going to move from sugar to sweeteners. And here's where it gets more controversial. The obesity paradox. To tie it all together, you'd think that no calories equals no weight gain, right? But the thing is, some population studies have found that there's a correlation between people who consume higher rates of artificial sweeteners to obesity. And why would this be? A meta-analysis in the QJM and International Journal of Medicine published by Oxford suggests that this could be because people who rely on sweeteners often overeat because they're under the illusion of being healthy, or they've consumed less, which isn't necessarily true. Or it could just be a case of correlation rather than causation. It's complicated. But the point is, sweeteners aren't like some magic bullet, and they aren't this, fix-all. So then what is? The answer is, there isn't one. There is no abracadabra, wave of a wand that gets rid of all your struggles when it comes to health and fitness. It's almost always diet, exercise, and discipline. But when you are looking at artificial sweeteners versus sugar, especially in a weight loss context, there are some things you can do. So the first one is, do not fully replace all sugary foods with sweeteners. You can have a mix because it's like still nutrients and fiber is important, which you can get in more natural sources. The next one is fruits. So I don't know where this idea has come about, but I've seen people say, oh, I can't eat fruit, it's sugar. Well, yeah, it's sugar, but it's a natural form of sugar. Like it doesn't have the same impact on your gut or your digestive system as, say, a bar of chocolate. And the other thing is fruit also has fiber, and it has vitamins and things that your body has, nutrients that you need. And so by cutting out fruits, because by saying it's too sweet or sugary, that's just completely a wrong way to approach it. You should always try to include some fruits. And there are some very, very rare circumstances where that isn't advisable. But for the general population, as with all my videos, just general advice, fruits are good for you. The sugar in fruits isn't bad for you. The next one is natural sweeteners. So you have natural sweeteners like stevia or monk fruit, which can actually be a good alternative as well, as they are more from natural sources and they are more gentler on the stomach and digestive system. And so that's, I'd say, a more advisable alternative, at least in my opinion, as opposed to like aspartame and sucralose, as stevia and monk fruit are also more healthier in this context. Everything's relative when I say that. And I think always try to pair things with protein, with fiber, with healthy fats for maximum impact, as that is what's going to support your digestive system and your gut health the most. Ultimately, in case this point hasn't come across enough, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Everything has trade-offs, whether it's sugar, sweeteners, literally anything. And common sense, diet, exercise, nothing beats them. They're the ultimate winners in this situation. Like if you follow those, you'll be fine in most cases. Leave a comment on what you want to see next, any questions, queries, and wishing you all happy digestive systems until the next one.